Yes. Oh, Wednesday night delight, fantasy football affair. Ooh, it is the MattyDaddy. We're talking Bears. Pow, pow. We're talking Cowboys. Tonight is the night. We're going to hit the gas. No brakes. Let's get going, guys. Big show tonight. You ready to get Kluge? Are you ready to eat some yum-yums? We're getting it both, and we're getting it tonight. So tonight is the night. MattyDaddy, Bo make big time, and Dave Kluge. Oh, let's go. Let's start it off. We're talking Cowboys. We're talking Bears. Before I get too sidetracked, Fantasy Football Affair, ffaffair.com, podcast, YouTubes, you name it. We got it. We deliver the goods. But let's get going. First off, this is big time. We're getting started. We're talking to Bo. Hot box. Not your mama's yoga. Good cooking. And great advice. We're talking. I looked at this guy's profile all over the place. Nimble numbers. You name it. DFS. He's done it all. He is IBT Media. You name it. He's doing it. Bo, welcome to the show.
I am so stoked to be here, Matty. Fired up. Get my war paint on. Let's go.
Woo! Glad to have you, Bo, man. I've reached out to you a couple times, but I really got aware of you from probably about a year ago. I saw your content, kind of saw DFS, had reached out to some other people and ran across your work, dude. But you're the life of the party, and that's what I love in fantasy. Is I want to be entertained, but I want knowledge, and you drop facts 100%. So thank you for coming on the show, my man.
Yeah, the life of the party thing. I don't know about that, but I did go to Chico State, so it might be in my blood, you know.
Chico, Chaco, Joey Wright. Bo knows, baby. We're back in business. But the Joey. We got more. We got more yum-yums. We got David Kluge. Who's David Kluge? Everybody wants to know. This is a bad man, ladies and gentlemen. Football guys, fantasy pros. And he has taken social media by storm. And his wife makes the best pie money can buy. So let's get started. Let's get him on here. Everybody wants to see the man with the master plan. Mr. Dave, what's up, my man?
Hey, not too much. Thanks a lot for having me on, Matt. You know, this has been a long time coming. We set this up a little while back, and now we're finally getting to do it. So excited to talk some Bears and Cowboys tonight. Although I feel a little outnumbered. You know, you guys are much larger stature than I am, and here you are towering above me on the screen as I'm the one lonely Bears fan on this show. I'm a little nervous.
Oh man, we'll take care of you. We're big teddy bears. Don't you worry.
You bunny ears too while you're up there.
Oh, teddy bears. So Dave, first off, man, let's hit the Bears first. I want to get to business and we'll have a little fun. Of course, let's go quarterbacks. Everybody's mentioned it, talked on it, but I want to hear what you got to say about Mr. Dalton. Is this a guy that's going to start a couple? Fields is the answer by week 6, by the bye week. What are your expectations from Dalton? Is he going to be a middling QB2? Is that too far-fetched? What's your thoughts on this quarterback?
Well, I think that fantasy-wise, there's nothing to be excited about as far as the Andy Dalton goes. I mean, I don't even know if QB2 is going to be good enough for him. I mean, he might just be completely unplayable, even in super flex leagues. You know, he last year he didn't really do too much with the Cowboys. You guys can attest to that. And that was with a, you know, just rock star wide receiver trio. And now he's got Allen Robinson, who's great, and Darnell Mooney, you know, could take a step forward. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you're looking at Jimmy Graham, Cole Comet, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen. I mean, some names that you know, but like nobody that's really going to be able to support a guy that's going to put up consistent fantasy numbers.
But that's the question, because this team – it lacks some weapons firepower, but the defense is great. This is a consistently good team. And now you would say you got better with Dalton from Trubisky, correct or incorrect?
Yes, I think it's absolutely an upgrade. And, you know, I already mentioned Allen Robinson. I think that Andy Dalton is immediately the best quarterback that that Allen Robinson has ever played with, going back to his college days when he had Christian Hackenberg and Matt McGloin, and then it was Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles and Chase Daniel. It's been terrible for him in the NFL. So Andy Dalton is a good one for him. And I do think that Andy Dalton is actually better for Allen Robinson than Justin Fields would be. And, you know, first of all, the camp reports are kind of backing that up and corroborating that a little bit. They said that he has just had 100% faith in Allen Robinson, that they've already built a very strong rapport. And then we saw it in Cincinnati where Andy Dalton would hyper target AJ Green and give him over 150 targets every single year. So I think that if Andy Dalton is the starter, it's great news for Allen Robinson. But obviously, as a Bears fan, I can't wait to see Fields take over.
Absolutely. I expect Dalton to be consistent, not turn the ball over, not lose you the game. And that's, I think, what we want as a Bears fan.
Yeah. And this is a team that's built on defense, like you mentioned. Like, they still have a great defense. You got to remember, just back in 2008, this Bears team went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman as their quarterback. So it's, for fantasy purposes, there isn't too much to get excited about. But as far as a real football team, people like to clown on the Bears and say that, Matt Nagy's on the hot seat and they're going to be picking top 5 next year. I think this team is closer to a Super Bowl win than they are to a top 5 pick realistically, just because of that defense. And the fantasy community just struggles to see it that way. But this is a good team from the bottom up, and they've got a few holes. But overall, they've been to the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, and I expect them to make the playoffs again this year.
Started at the bottom, now here.
Mm-hmm.
Bo, big time, baby. Fields, this is a draft darling. We saw fall to 11th, I believe. This is a guy who was everybody's QB2 coming out. What are your thoughts for the rookie, as we've seen Lance land where he did, and Wilson, everything like that? Does that change your ranking, or where did you have him pre-draft, post-draft?
I think that it's really important before I give my ranking away to say that as a prospect, there's a pretty big distance between him at number 2 and Lawrence at number 1. But as a fantasy asset, I think they're a lot closer because of that Konami code that you're talking about. If you're talking about a standard league where you're getting 4 points per passing touchdown, then I'm way closer with those two together. And him slipping to an established franchise with a lot of pieces around him instead of a Jaguars team that's taken over by Urban Meyer. It's an unproven coach, a lot of unproven people in general. I have more confidence in Fields once he does take over the job. I'm hoping that he continues to impress in camp because I want him to be the best passer that's thrown a regular season pass ever to Allen Robinson, because he's already light years better in every single facet of the game that Andy Dalton ever was. Andy Dalton's always been average. He's always been, when he was a part of a good team early in the Bengals days, they made the playoffs. So they didn't go very far because they didn't have the quarterback that had that killer instinct to take them over the top. And he's never really been terrible, but he's never been good either. So you have to get a guy with the high ceiling in the game and see what he can do. I mean, everybody wants to say, yeah, sit him in week 1 against the Rams because you don't want Aaron Donald to squash his little head. But I want to see it. I want to see Justin Fields on the field week 1, and I want to see him scramble around Aaron Donald and find some open receivers because Darnell Mooney's getting open. Cole Kmet's getting open. Jimmy Graham's tall enough to be open even if he's got 3 guys hanging off him. So it's just I want to see the exciting players on the field. I want to see Fields be the first 4,000-yard passer in franchise history, which is what I predicted.
Wow.
And I predicted it for this year.
I just want to say, Bo, you said that he didn't get very far in the playoffs. He went 0-5. That Bengals team made the playoffs 5 times and never won a game. So this guy, everyone's talking about him, this safe veteran that can win you games. But, and I don't want to dog on the Rams at all, but everyone's saying the same thing about Stafford. Like, I can't bet on a guy that's never, ever won a playoff game 10 years in the league. Yeah, to suddenly take this team to a Super Bowl. So I think that Justin Fields is going to get them much, much further. But as somebody who's paid attention to a lot of the camp reports, it seems like Matt Nagy is just enamored with Andy Dalton. The media, the fans, everybody else on the coaching staff loves Justin Fields.
It's the visor, it's the beard and the visor. He's got the new aesthetic. And as soon as you roll him out against the best defense in the league in week 1, you're going to see really quick that he's got lots of flaws.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of flaws. Let's go. My dogs for Rum Boys, Robbie. Jeff with the yo. Hey, yo.
At Jeff.
Of course, we got a little Scotty in the building. Dave rocking the spectacles.
Yeah.
No diggity, no doubt.
Yeah.
Dalton is going to turn the ball over. Okay. More nimble numbers. He's eating this stuff up tonight, guys. And then, of course, Z2 Fantasy. This is a fire crew. So our hope is in super flex leagues, in redraft, we're hoping maybe to scoop Fields late get your draft in. Maybe they don't name Dalton or Fields a starter. And then maybe by week 5, 6, you get to use that 4.4 speed, kind of that weapon to get that top 10 upside.
It's going to be week 4 is what I'm expecting. Week 4 is a home game against the Lions. I've been saying that since the second the schedule came out. It just makes too much sense. They got to give it to Dalton. Let him, let him lose the job, which he will inevitably. And another big thing is that they play the Bengals week 2. And I'm sure that Dalton's got that circled on his calendar. He really wants to go into Cincinnati and play against his former team. So let him do that. Then he'll get his butt kicked week 3 against the Browns. And then that opens it up for them to give the job to Fields week 4 at home against the Lions. That's what I'm expecting.
Woo!
Yeah,
We're not.
I think he gets to play the Bengals if he survives week 1.
God, old Dalton. Nothing good to say about him. I hate to say it, but moving on. I'm not gonna make it all Bears. Being a Cowboys fan, I want to bounce around. I want to feel some of the goodness, like the 2019 quarterback 2 in fantasy, Mr. Dak Prescott. Bo, the fractured ankle, the MRIs, the sprains. How are we feeling about the Dak attack this year?
Wheels up. He's depending on the format, he's my quarterback 2 to 1. I mean, I've seen certain formats where he's my quarterback 1. Depending on scoring, he's in my top 3 no matter what. The sheer volume in which they're going to have to move the ball to stay in games is enough for me to say that he has skill position players around him that are immensely talented. His offensive line is finally healthy again. He didn't have any real structural damage other than the fracture and dislocation of that ankle, which helps his recovery time. I'm thinking he's ready to go by week 1, perfectly fine. His shoulder is just a management thing where they're just going to make sure that, hey, okay, we're not going to let you throw and make it worse until you're not feeling it anymore. Did
you see the report from 2 hours ago that he is going back under another MRI?
Yeah. So what?
It's a little worrisome, and I'm with you. Dak was my.
You want to look at it.
Dak was my QB2 as well, but that makes me a little nervous. Makes me just a little nervous.
Just looking at an MRI doesn't really tell you anything, though, because all they're going to do is say, okay, let's see if we miss something. Maybe he's going through a little bit of tightness that they weren't expecting. But if let's say it is the lat strain that they're saying, it's still a 3-week injury from the beginning of what it is. And they weren't going to have this guy play it much in the preseason, maybe the last preseason game, because they have 4. When they play in the Hall of Fame game, like the Steelers, they have 4 preseason games instead of 3. And they probably weren't going to have Dak on the field with live action, maybe more than a series in the very last game, just to get his bell rung a little bit and wake up and be ready for week 1. And so I'm not saying that I don't think there's any way a lat strain is going to hamper his ability to play in week 1 at the top of his ability.
He's such an investment. So you just paid him all this money. If I was doing my due diligence, at least I wouldn't make him play maybe the last week of no, not even. I would get a veteran quarterback right now. Just sign somebody, not a Dalton, but somebody who can play. I don't know if they're waiting for something to shake out with like a Foles, with a Minshew, somebody just in case. All right, Dave, Dak Prescott. Are you in on him this year? Do you see this consistency, or do these injuries worry you enough that in super flex leagues you may be staying away and going with the safer option?
No, I mean I love Dak, and I mean really the way that I've been playing my drafts this year, I have Dak as my QB2. I think he's that good. He was a QB1 last year before he got hurt. He was a QB2 the year before, and talent wise, I don't want to dog on him at all. I think there's a lot of better quarterbacks out there, but the situation that he has with those wide receivers, with that porous defense, it's just a dream scenario for a fantasy quarterback. So I like Dak. I think he's really talented. He's got some rushing upside that we got to see last year. I'm hoping that that's not going to disappear because of this injury. But like I said, you can't help but be worried about these injuries a little bit. But still, the way that I'm drafting this year, I've got Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. That's my top 5 right there. I'm happy with any of those 5, and I don't want to reach for any of them. So whoever drops to me, once somebody starts a QB run, sometimes it starts in round 3, sometimes it starts in round 6. Whenever that QB run happens, I'm going to take whichever one, the last one off the board, falls to me. Hopefully it's Lamar Jackson. If not, I am more than happy with Dak Prescott.
I'm right there with you. I think the O-line's going to be big time improved, weapons galore. I feel like this is the total package for an offense. And obviously I'm a Cowboys fan, so guns up, baby. We're blazing tonight. Let's keep it going. Back to the Bears, the running back shuffle. We've got Damien Williams not pictured. Herbert not pictured. Cohen not even practicing, but the full Monty. This guy hit the lottery last year, is a grinder. You see how hard he works in the offseason. Catched a lot of balls last year, Dave. We have no Cohen. Do you feel like Damien Williams is going to hinder those receptions, or do you still think Monty can get that RB1 upside?
I mean, is it possible? Sure. He could finish as an RB1 again. Is it something that I want to bet on? No, but I feel like just the volume alone that he's going to get this year puts him in a really good position to provide a very safe floor. He's never it's going to be very rare that you're going to see him finishing outside of RB2 status. I mean, he's going to be seeing 15 to 18 touches every single week. And that alone means that he's going to be a weekly starter. And there aren't many guys that see that type of volume that you can draft in the 4th and 5th round of your draft. So I love Montgomery's value. I do think Damian Williams is going to be a thing, though. We've got to remember that Damian Williams was, moved from Miami to the Chiefs when Matt Nagy was the offensive coordinator over there. And Matt Nagy was the one that really made Damian Williams a thing. He had that second half of 2018 where he tore it up. I'm sorry, the second half of, was it 2019, right? Was it the second half of 2019? And that was when Matt Nagy was it was 2018, but that was when Damian Williams showed up, and it was with Matt Nagy. So Matt Nagy has some trust in him. And just like, we want to see Justin Fields and David Montgomery taking over, Matt Nagy has been singing Damien Williams' praises again. So I think he is going to be a bigger factor than we want him to. But still, Montgomery is the lead back, and he's looked great in camp so far. He's kind of got this reputation as a plotter. We know he can break tackles. We know he's got a little bit of shiftiness, but he's never really been able to kick it into that second gear once he gets out of the or into the secondary. And that's something that just happened a few days ago where he broke an arm tackle, got into the secondary, and we saw this boost that we have never seen from David Montgomery before. And he said that was his entire plan in the offseason was nothing but speed training, and that's already showing. So if he can kick that up a little bit, he's got some upside there, but finishing RB4, I'd be shocked if he ever eclipses what he did in 2020.
Well, where you're getting him, nobody's valuing him as an RB1. Right. So at a point, you have these 16 RBs, and you're kind of just playing the lottery in the back end of who's going to hit, and who's going to hit rock bottom. So, Bo, before we get to the Cowboys RBs, Monty, is the risk worth the reward? Do you see this guy, like we said, the speed training, the gaga, this guy puts in the work. Can he sneak into that RB1 range, 8 to 10 to 12, or do you see him as a middle of the range back-end RB2?
I really think he can, because their schedule again this year it's not cupcake like the second half of last year, but the middle to the back end of their schedule looks pretty soft again this year. And they still get to play the Packers twice a year. The Packers really didn't do anything to shore up their run defense, which was a weakness from last year. Monty is every bit of the hardest worker at the running back position you're going to find. And with the volatility of the position, it wouldn't shock me if a couple guys went down above him in ADP, just nature of the position. You don't know who it's going to be and when, but Monty might be the guy that takes advantage of the failing health of other running backs that were taken before him. And just like last year, puts 4 or 5 really good games together, and you might see him at RB 10 or 11 or 12.
I'm going to hit you each with 2.
Okay.
Dobbins, Mixon, Monty. Go with you first, Dave.
If I'm picking one, Mixon. Not even close for me. I think Mixon's going to be top 5 in carries, top 5 in targets. I love Mixon's workload for this year.
Same for me.
All right. That was an easy one. Let's keep it going. Bo, you've been tooting the horn of Mr. Tony Pollard, the Memphis running back. I
feel like I'm by myself too.
Dude, it's likely. I mean, you're paid Zeke. You have a weapon in Pollard. He's got to get on the field more. So kind of fill us in on the expectations for Zeke. Does this guy deliver the goods like he always does when healthy? Or is this one of those you're going to see more of a committee approach than we're used to?
I think a little bit of both. Zeke is going to eat. His volume, his His share at the goal line is unmatched. His ability at the goal line is unmatched. So I really think with Zeke's underrated receiving floor that we really don't talk about, the guy catches 50 balls every year and throws in another 500 and 600 yards receiving every year. He's a lock for 1,500 scrimmage yards and 10 to 15 touchdowns. That's an absolute lock. And so, yeah, you can put a healthy Zeke in the top 5 of any running back list. What I do think is they have Pollard. Because he was a mid-round pick. This is his contract year. He's looking to get that option picked up for the 4th season. And if he doesn't perform, as in they don't give him the playing time that he's so far earned, like every time he's on the field, the guy breaks tackles. He makes huge plays. He was a quasi receiver in college. He's got amazing hands. He runs great routes. He does everything you want a running back to do as that 3rd down role, or even what I've heard from multiple sources is in 4 wide receiver sets, 3rd and long. They're going to stick his butt in the slot. They're going to put him in the backfield with Zeke and 21 speed personnel. They're going to put him on the field more in tandem with Zeke than more than just his every 3rd series that he takes over when Zeke is taking a breather.
Okay. Dave, little dynasty swing to it. Zeke, getting old, man. Is he going to be an RB that could probably put in 2 to 3 more years of consistency with that offensive line, that scheme, that team? Or is this one of those you see maybe a 2-year window here?
Yeah, I think, he's definitely a lot younger than people realize. Like when you think of Ezekiel Elliott, like you think he's like a 29, 30-year-old running back because he's just been producing from a college level, and how long he's been on the Cowboys. He's been producing for so long. But I do worry that those miles are going to catch up to him a little bit. So I think a 2-year window is kind of what you're looking at right here. I know a lot of people are beating the drum that if you're in Dynasty, you should be trying to sell Zeke right now. But, I don't want to sell a guy that's, going to have another 2 top 5 seasons. And like you said, you can almost just write it down in ink that he is going to have a top 5 season. If he was healthy last year, if Dak was healthy last year, I think we would have seen him hit 300 carries again for the 4th time. And things got a little derailed last year with some of his injuries and Dak being out. And I think that they kind of eased up his workload a little bit because of those injuries. But I expect them to go right back to feeding Zeke again this year. And Pollard, he's a guy, Bo, I know you're huge on Pollard, and I love him too. It's just at what point do they have to almost like bury talent on this team? You've got Michael Gallup, who's the wide receiver 3, who could be a wide receiver 1 on, a dozen teams in the NFL. You got Pollard, who'd be a starting running back on all these teams. So there's no lack of talent there, but you got to wonder, how are they going to be able to get all of these guys the ball?
That's always the trick, is getting Pollard more than 100 touches. Yeah. Because he seems to average between 5 yards a carry pretty consistently, and then throw in another 10, 12 yards per catch. I mean, that's a weapon out there. I mean, you saw what he did to the 49ers last year. It's just absolute game-breaking talent when Zeke was banged up. And even then when they flexed him in when Zeke had some ball security issues that he sewed up after a couple of games, it was like Pollard came in there and he was a spark plug. They could feed him just the same. He's not a scat back. He's almost the same size as Zeke. He's 5 pounds lighter, and that's the only difference. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a guy who's everything Zeke is, maybe except for pass blocking and protection and vision, but he breaks just as many tackles. He's a better receiver than Zeke, and he's much faster than Zeke. It's a tandem that they should take more advantage of, like the Browns did last year with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I picture that kind of scenario for this team where they might not want to go as pass heavy last year because Dak is coming back, getting his legs back underneath him. And this team is built to run. His entire offense, the Kellen Moore offense, was designed to give Zeke the damn ball. And so if you say, hey, let's run more 12, let's put Pollard on the field more as an H-back or as a slot receiver, like your gadget player even, give him more touches and weaponize him like the Browns did with Kareem Hunt last year, you don't have to give Zeke as much workload, and they'll both be even more efficient in their touches because you don't know what's coming anymore.
I think that's the most exciting part of this, of not having Jason Garrett. Having McCarthy, who said he's changed from Green Bay. We all saw those videos with this coaching staff, and Kellen Moore is a good coach. So if we have the weapons, we have an offense that can spread the ball out. I feel like we're setting everybody up for success. Fantasy-wise, I don't know if that helps Zeke or hurts him. I still got to get through trusting. I have trust issues with our head coach. So once I get through the McCarthy issues, I'll be ready.
I think those are going to go away.
They never go. Hey, Bo, this is Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys. All right, I had to do that once. Let's go receivers. We're getting there. A-Rob, Mooney. We got Newsom, I believe's hurt. What else do we got? This is a Bear cabinet. Anthony Miller. God, another Memphis guy. Oh, nothing.
He's gone.
A-Rob.
They traded him to Houston.
I know.
Yeah.
Hamstring tightness with A-Rob. Mooney's that deep threat. Little sparks, little glimpses. What do we got here, Dave? Is there room for more receivers, or is this just going to be the A-Rob show, targets galore? Or is Mooney going to really step in here and provide fantasy football value?
I think both. And I know that's kind of the chalky take, but realistically, I mean, Allen Robinson has done nothing but produce throughout his entire career. He's seen 150 targets in back-to-back years. Had he not gotten hurt and missed a few games, he'd have seen 150 in 3 straight years. I mean, we know what we're getting with Allen Robinson. He's not that sexy. You know, he doesn't have that game-breaking ability that DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown do, but he's just an absolute target hog, and he doesn't have that upside, you know, with speed and athleticism. But he's just a savvy route runner that knows how to get open, knows how to use his big body to push defenders off of him. And then he's as sure-handed as they come. And that's what you're getting with Allen Robinson. So, you know, if you want a guy that is basically locked in to be somewhere between like wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 12, Allen Robinson's your guy. Wide receiver 8 last year, wide receiver 9 the year before. You know he's getting 150 targets. But, you know, there hasn't been a wide receiver 2. And now Mooney comes on, and I think Mooney's a lot more than just a deep threat. And, you know, that's what we see all the time, are him blowing the top off of defenses and then not getting the ball thrown to him. And, you know, that's what everybody kind of focuses on. But he garnered 98 targets last year as a rookie. And that's something that I think people should take a little bit more notice of. There aren't a lot of rookies that come in and see 98 targets, and that's exactly what Darnell Mooney did. And now in this offseason, he said he's been working with Andy Dalton to add a little bit more nuance and timing to his routes. He knows that he's a speed guy, but rather than just, you know, jumping right off the line and trying to blow the top off the defense, he said he's using some hesitation steps and using, you know, some off-speed stuff to help get open and build a rapport with Andy Dalton. So, you know, Darnell Mooney's this guy that was like a huge sleeper a few months ago, going at the very end of your draft, and everyone was getting him, and he's been creeping up draft boards. But even now, getting drafted in the 8th round, I still think he's a great value. Yeah,
when you get to the wide receiver 3, it's just really what receiver do you believe in that has enough upside to deliver? Do you want the consistency of like a Marvin Jones maybe? Do you want the Mooney? What do you want? So Mooney is intriguing. He's one of those that could make the leap to that wide receiver 2 range, or he could just not get there because of the targets, because of everything. So
I think you're going to see his targets go down. And if you see 98 targets,
that was
probably going to see.
That's what I'm saying. That was nice
as a sophomore. Yeah. So that
when you got no Cohen to catch the ball still. You saw how they use Cohen when he plays. They feed that guy nonstop. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see how Mooney, Damian Williams, these side pieces, we're going to get to Comet in a minute. So all these little tinkering pieces, there's fantasy value somewhere. We just have to figure out which one is going to be the one that you can trust.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of crazy when I'm reading through camp reports right now. It's like Justin Fields threw a 65-yard to, and I have to Google the guy's name. Like, I don't even know who the other receivers are on this team. Outside of Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney, you got Javon Wims and Riley Ridley, just a bunch of nobodies. It's
Riley Ridley, man, that guy, another one that, you know, coming out of college, everybody was hype on that guy.
Yeah,
and he just disappeared. Kind of the Anthony Miller approach. I don't know what happens when they go to Chi-Town. Something.
Nothing good. I had a prediction with Darnell Mooney that he was going to lead the NFL in qualified yards per reception, because even though he's not just a deep threat, he's one of the best deep threats out there for running vertical routes. Like his ability to get into space down the field against pretty much any corner is pretty remarkable, especially as a rookie out of Tulane, where he didn't see very many good cover corners in college. It didn't matter. The guy he's a burner. He's got great agility. And even on those shorter routes where he's going to have to develop, I have a feeling that we're going to see some big fireworks from him, especially once Fields takes over.
I like it. Everybody's getting spicy tonight. Let's go to the tonight's gonna be a good night. Tonight's a night. All right. Little black eyed peas for you, baby. Cowboys receivers. I think the big question mark is we all see Gallup's upside. We saw what he did with that wide receiver 2-year a couple years ago. Everybody is waiting for the birth of CeeDee Lamb to just be the alpha in the NFL. Is this going to be a slow burn, or do we still think Cooper's the top dog? Let's go with you first, Bo.
So I have a feeling that we're going to see I think it might be the first time in history that you'll have 3 1,000-yard receivers on the same team in one season. I'm predicting all of them to get 100-plus targets because I'm predicting 550 to 600 passing attempts at about a 67% clip. And it really shallows out. This is not a deep receiving core. After these 3 guys, you have Cedric Wilson, who flexes in from time to time. They have a couple other guys they picked up, like Simi Fehoko out of Stanford. They're not that good. Like Cedric Wilson is a speed guy. Simi is a big, tall guy. He reminds me of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, which is not a good thing. But the 3 guys that are going to get most of the attention, other than the backfield and the tight end position, they're going to just light it up. And I do think they're going to swap the positions from last year, except for Cooper's going to stay at the Z, so he's going to be flanker off the line of scrimmage because he runs precise routes. When they're not press covering Amari Cooper, he is uncoverable. And that's where he wants to stay. That's where he's going to stay. They're going to swap CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup this year. So Gallup is going to run out of the slot and develop more of that route tree, which it caters to his game a lot better because CeeDee Lamb is as X receiver as it gets. Like, this guy is the real deal. He is the total package: speed, power, route running. He doesn't do anything like a rookie last year. He didn't look like a rookie at all. Making spectacular catches, making easy catches. He's always open. And Gallup is way better than people think. He ran the X routes last year, which are all the tough vertical routes that you expect the X receiver to run. Right. And he was pretty good. He put up almost 1,000 yards last year. And that's with basically me at quarterback. So you're looking at a very exciting receiving core with a very capable quarterback that wants to go downfield. It's going to be a lot of play action off of that strong running game. This is going to be fireworks in
Tampa Bay.
There's no reason. Yeah, and that's the other receiving core that I might think would be at the same echelon where they might have 3 1,000-yard receivers because Tom Brady's not going to slow down throwing the ball. They have a very similar team structure to the Bucs, maybe except for the Bucs having a stronger defense.
Buck Nasty want to know, Dave, do you have anything to add to this beautiful Cowboys receiving core?
I mean, it's tough. I feel like every single day I'm like debating in my head who has the best trio in the league, because we're in this position right now where the Bengals, the Steelers, the Bucs, the Cowboys all have just phenomenal wide receiver trios. And as somebody who doesn't even know who my team's wide receiver 3 is, it makes me just green with jealousy and red with rage. It's terrible to watch, but no, realistically, I think this is still Amari Cooper's team. And I love CeeDee Lamb. He came on last year, and I think that he's going to be a great receiver. But, Amari Cooper is just the alpha on that team. He's got years of rapport that he's built with Dak Prescott. And as much as I love CeeDee Lamb, I think people are just getting a little too excited by putting him ahead of Amari Cooper. I feel like especially this time of year, people just get so obsessed with upside, and everybody wants to chase that upside. And I get it, CeeDee Lamb has the upside, but let's not forget that Amari Cooper has been old reliable for Dak Prescott for many, many years now, and I expect that to continue. You said that you expect all these guys to hit 1,000 yards, and I could see it happening, but it really worries me that Michael Gallup's going to end up being the odd guy out. And, Michael Gallup's one of my favorite players. I was huge on him heading into the 2019 season, huge on him again heading into 2020. And he let me down a little bit, so it's tough for me emotionally to reinvest in Michael Gallup again.
I think it's cool I was gonna say it's funny how Bears Cowboys, because you guys wouldn't have that defense with Mac without the Raiders trading away him, and we wouldn't have the offense we have if we wouldn't have got Cooper for the Raiders.
Butterfly
so it's crazy how it all full circle, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, just to help Dave along with Gallup, is he was second on the team in targets last year, and would have had well over 1,000 yards had the quarterback situation been. I mean, all three of them would have had over 1,200 yards at their pace last year, which is insanity.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, and I don't know if you know this, but what was the target share when Dak was quarterback? Because I feel like CeeDee Lamb was getting more targets than Gallup at the time.
Yeah, CeeDee was getting a lot more targets, but he was also shallower. He was running a lot of those little hitch routes in the slot, and then Cooper was making all the gigantic plays. Gallup was less favored than the other two for sure under Dak. You're right about that.
I mean, we've done a lot of best ball drafts together, and I think Amari Cooper is my wide receiver one on more teams than anything, because I hammer running backs early, and then when Amari Cooper's sitting there in the 4th round as my wide receiver one, it's just impossible to pass on him.
That's easy.
It's just crazy how deep receiver is, because you got like 50 guys that can all consistently score, flex points, all these just greatness. That's all I can say. Let's go to tight ends. Not much. I don't really want to.
The Bears have them all. The Bears have all of them.
All right. Jimmy Graham not mentioned or not pictured here. Cole Comet, the 2nd round pick. This is a guy oozing upside. This is a guy kind of like Mooney. What do we have here? Is this a guy that could be a little sneaky? Little tight end streamer late round, guy to pick up? Is this a guy you're staying away from in redraft, or is this a guy you might take a chance on, Dave?
I am staying away from him in redraft, as much as it pains me to say that, because right when the season ended, I put together my rankings and I had Cole Kmet as my tight end 8, and I was very confident in that tight end ranking because Jimmy Graham was supposed to be gone. The Bears needed to open up some cap space, and the logical thing for them to do would be to cut Jimmy Graham and save $8 million. And instead, they cut their all-pro cornerback in Kyle Fuller, which was the biggest need that they have now, not having a cornerback.
And their left tackle.
Yeah, Charles Leno, he hasn't been that great. I mean, he made a Pro Bowl.
Pull the fucking trigger. God.
Yeah, but it was just brutal, man. The fact that they cut Kyle Fuller instead of Jimmy Graham is something that I still lose sleep over months later. And I think that Jimmy Graham being there, it is so dumb. It is so dumb. And I think that just really caps Cole Kmet's upside. So, I just said this on a show that I was with Troy King a couple hours ago, but trying to find the silver lining in this situation is that I think this could benefit Cole Kmet from a dynasty standpoint. We know that there's a long learning curve for tight ends, and maybe if they threw too much on his plate in year 2, it would have, set him back a little bit and hurt his development. So now getting to sit behind Jimmy Graham, again, one of the all-time greats, I think that could help his long-term development. So I think Cole Kmet, I mean, we saw it last year. He did not look like a rookie. Defenders were bouncing off of him. He was stiff arming. He was running crisp routes. He was doing everything you want to see from a tight end as a rookie. So as much as I like the talent, the opportunity here is just a little bit tough. And I think that Jimmy Graham, he's probably going to see 3 to 5 touchdowns, and those aren't going to go Cole Kmet's way, which, makes him a little bit risky in fantasy.
In redraft, but in dynasty, this might be a guy mid-season, maybe make some calls, see what you got.
Oh yeah.
I've already been stockpiling him.
Let's go to the Jarwin. Blake, you're back, baby. Injuries galore, but you're here. You're ready to rock Cowboy style. Bo, this kind of was a sexy sleeper last offseason. Everybody was kind of on Blake Jarwin. Do you still think there's enough to go around? I think there's enough to go around, but is the question, is Jarwin the answer here at tight end?
Well, I mean,
you saw Witten, 2 years ago, getting fed targets and dropping passes, and they still weren't putting Jarwin in. So is now the time Jarwin produces?
Wait a minute. Jason Witten has 0 career drops in my mind. So that's never happened. I've never seen Jason Witten drop a pass, and I've never seen him be able to be covered even with 5.2 40 speed. But Blake Jarwin is an athletic tight end. He's a better athlete than Dalton Schultz, who got 63 catches last year. And that's very promising because they do run a good amount of 12 personnel. They were in about a quarter of the plays last year, which tells me that they're both going to be on the field a great deal. But I have a feeling that Jarwin's going to get a lot of that 11 personnel look, and because he's a more dynamic receiver. Schultz, I think, is a more balanced player, but it's not going to be Dalton Schultz taking 63 catches again. It's going to be Jarwin in the red zone, and even his yak average. This is why people got excited last year coming in. Is his 2019 yak average was off the charts. He was breaking big plays on short routes all year in 2019, and that's kind of what endeared him to Cowboys fans, is because Witten's finally out of the way, right, and we have a guy who can burn. And that was even before we had all these great wide receivers. And now you have all these great wide receivers, and you have an athletic tight end to dominate the seam routes. I don't know how good his floor is. It might not be much at all. But if I'm looking at best ball tight ends, Blake Jarwin's one of my favorite late round targets, because you don't know when he's going to have that 80-yard splash play, or
I like how you spin that
2-touchdown game. In my redrafts, I'm kind of staying away, because I don't want my tight end 2 to be a guy who's going to score any points every fourth game.
I love it. I think you nailed it right there, man. The best ball thing, and then boom. Dave, do you got any Blake Jarwin love in your soul?
I do. I've got a lot. I think he's a great football player, and I agree with Bo that there's going to be some very intense weekly volatility, which is going to make him really tough to stomach in redraft and dynasty leagues. And I'm with you. In best ball, he's one of my favorite targets for that reason, because I think he's going to have some big games. But when you got a team, I mean, think about all the people that we've talked about here. We've got Dak Prescott. We've got 2 great running backs, 3 great receivers. We got a tight end that's supposed to get fed. Like that just doesn't happen realistically. So somebody's going to have to be the odd man out. And I think, to your point about him having weekly volatility, there could be weekly volatility with all of these guys, with CeeDee Lamb, with Amari Cooper, with Ezekiel Elliott. There are a lot of mouths to feed. And I think that Zeke gets, first dibs at the table, and then Amari gets his. But with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Blake Jarwin, Tony Pollard, all those guys are going to have some really, really down weeks that are going to be pretty tough in redraft.
Ooh, you talked Jarwin, and I was falling asleep there. But then you said at the table. And I've been thinking about food all day. The yum yum, num 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 num.
Now we know why I'm on this show.
Woo! Oh, dude, you've been killing it. Those analytics, the target shares, Bo. You were fucking king of the mountain in my eyes. So let's talk hot box, because that's what I'm here for, baby. I love food. I love football. I love food. And I love that you're able to do both. Woo, hot box. Check them out, dude. So before we get to these few pictures, it's almost like a appetizer here. Kind of fill us in on your story, how this all started for you.
I mean, I'll keep it pretty short, because you guys have both heard my story, and it's just basically, as soon as I was tall enough to have my eyeballs above the countertop, I was in my grandma and grandpa's kitchen learning how to pressure cook chicken, how to fry an egg, how to do all the things that some people don't learn until they're in college and they're starving to death. And luckily, even though I didn't start off with a passion for cooking, once I got married and my wife was like, "Hey, I can cook, but I really don't like to," it was more like, "Okay, let's get back in there and see what I still got." And then my grandpa passed away in 2010, and I was like, "Okay, I remember. Like this is what I enjoy this." And so it just, one thing led to another, and last year I was dabbling around the kitchen trying to recreate a taco sauce of all things, and I went down a different rabbit hole and came up with a hot sauce, and it got really popular because I was selling it to Twitter followers. Like I had like 50 or 60 at that point, maybe a couple hundred, and then I couldn't manage the DMs that I was getting for the orders of my hot sauce, so I started a website. And then once the website started kicking, I started throwing the seasoning blends that I had been making for a long time on the site and started selling those.
Let's talk that, man. Taco Tuesday was yesterday. Yeah. Look at these tacos, man. Mwah, grazie. Fill us in on your taco seasoning.
Taco seasoning, for just like with all the other seasoning blends, for me, it's about just a big punch in the mouth with flavor. I don't want to skimp on, I don't want just for it to be salty, because a lot of the seasoning blends you buy in the store is just pure salt, and then they have a touch and essence of something else that makes it a taco seasoning or a gravy seasoning or something like that. For me, it's like you're getting all of those flavors, and then of course you have salt to season it. And I just want it to be clean. I want people to be able to buy my products and put it in their food and not have to even think about what's on the label. Like I want my food to taste good, and I don't want to have to worry about any hidden junk ingredients. Like if you look at an ingredients on a seasoning packet, it's disgusting.
Are you a taco fan, Dave?
I love tacos. Who doesn't like tacos?
I'd be mad if you didn't.
You know what? Actually, I'm going to go off a little tangent for a second here. I love meat, smoked meats, grilled meats, any type of meats. But man, we just recently got these lion's mane mushrooms, and I don't know if you've had these things before.
Yes.
But you want to talk about a meat substitute in tacos?
Delicious.
You just bread them, fry them up, and like you literally can't tell the difference between that and chicken. I've never had anything like this in my life. Sorry, just I've been eating a lot of lion's mane mushrooms lately, and let me tell you, they are a game changer.
That's interesting. That's something I'm gonna have to try. I love mushrooms, so it's hard not to. Bo,
absolutely right.
I feel like getting a rub on, but not online. Let's talk the rub, baby.
I think you're like over in Florida, so I'm not going to be able to reach.
Great transition there, right?
Yeah, this one actually I've been making the Smoke Shack rub for a long time. This is good. It goes way back in the annals of my family history is just barbecue. Like being able to light up some charcoal, throw some cherry wood or some post oak in a pit barrel. We cook in a barrel. And you slow cook your slabs of ribs, your tri-tips, your whole chickens in the barrel for a few hours until it comes up to temp. It gets all the best smoke, but the Smoke Shack is meant to complement any type of meat or protein for that matter, with sweetness, smokiness, and a little bit of spice.
I love ribs,
and it's also colorful, so it makes your ribs look like they're from a cartoon.
Do you guys ever go to like a food fest or anything? Like, I'm sure y'all have them around. Like, I'm from Memphis, so they had Memphis in May, the barbecue fest. You got the wing fest, and I just fall in love all over again. Dave,
I practically live there.
Are you a pulled pork guy? Are you a ribs guy? What's your barbecue of choice?
I've never really been a big ribs fan because I just sucked at making them myself. But one of my buddies, he just goes balls to the wall, like just does everything as big as possible. And he just got this really nice Rectex smoker. And we've been going over there for food. And oh man, he made these ribs the other day. He actually used this activated charcoal rub on the ribs, and they were mind blowing. So, pulled pork, if I go to a barbecue place, pulled pork is my go-to. Brisket's number 2, but I'm starting to enjoy ribs a little bit more than I used to.
Yep.
I just never really connected with brisket for some reason. I love ribs and I love pulled pork, but maybe I'm just missing out on the perfect meat, but I don't have it. It's not there for me.
A pulled pork sandwich with a brioche bun and coleslaw, pickles. That's my jam right there.
Keep the coleslaw for my pulled pork sandwich. I'll take extra pickles instead.
All right.
Joey Wright, pop it in the chat. I've been loving the hot box in my chili. I'm sure his wife loves him eating chili. Joey, what's up, my man? Joey is a fantastic follow on Twitter. If anybody's watching, go follow the Joey Wright right here, right now. This is one that caught my eye because I think I see the kale and I think of sausage and bacon and potatoes. This is a soup of soups. So kind of anybody that doesn't know what this is, kind of walk them through what we're looking at.
This is actually my play on the Zuppa Toscana from Olive Garden, which, maybe you go to Olive Garden once every 5 years for the unlimited salad and breadsticks and maybe some cheese tortellini or whatever they pretend is Italian. But they have a soup that's seasonal there that's called Zuppa Toscana with it's spicy Italian sausage, potatoes, a little bit of chopped bacon. And then they just throw kale in at the last minute so it wilts and gets a little softer. And then, of course, I throw in some hot box hot sauce on there. And, it's a really heavy soup, but it also, it has a little bit of freshness to it with the kale. So everybody seems to like it, even with kale in it. And I have some very strong haters of vegetables in my family. I love vegetables, but certain people in my family won't eat it if it's green, and they'll still eat this soup.
Yeah, I love kale, man. One of my favorite things to make is just, You throw some oil and seasonings in a bowl, chop up some kale, pop it in the oven for 15 minutes on high, and
Chips.
just have some little kale chips. Yeah, you don't feel guilty eating them. I love me some kale.
Yeah, you can do that with pretty much any vegetable. Like broccoli and Brussels sprouts are great that way too. Yeah, it's a staple. Stinks up your house, but that's about it.
You got a chef hat there?
Mamma mia! I'm cooking with Bo tonight, ma. Dude, I was gonna wear this earlier and I completely forgot it. Good thing I found it. Thanks, kids, for having such cool toys. Looks like Matty might have had some chili.
It's because you ran off camera really fast.
I was just getting in the kitchen, cooking with Crisco, baby. Let's keep it going. We're running out of slides. Well, chicken Alfredo. I had my first ever homemade Alfredo. Game changer. We talked about this pre-show. This looks yummy.
It was. I mean, once you make your own Alfredo, it's only 4 ingredients. You really can't mess it up. And once you make it, you'll look at the jar stuff, and literally it makes you sick to your stomach that you ever ate that stuff because it's no comparison.
I hate jarred spaghetti sauce. All these foods that I loved as a kid, I've realized, like mac and cheese, the regular mac, I hate that. I'm just a hater when it comes to just regular, not homemade foods. Dave,
I'm
you
with
a broccoli
you.
eater, baby?
I'm not a big cook myself. I could live on frozen pizzas.
But your wife's a cook, correct?
Yes, and
that's what we tied this episode all together.
He's so lucky.
Cooper, pies, hot box. This is a match made in heaven, baby.
Sure is.
And now that I have Emily's pie crust recipe, I'm going to make a hot box that's clucking hot chicken pot pie.
Make some quiche. Something else.
She's done some chicken pot pies before that turned out really, really well.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So what's the 101 of her pies, Dave? If you have to have one, that's what your bread and butter. What do you got here?
That's tough. That's really
it's like
tough.
Choosing your favorite dog.
Yeah, man, that's not an easy question, but I'd have to go with cherry, which is funny because I hated cherry pie growing up. Never liked cherry pie. And she came up with this cherry pie, and I didn't even want to try it, honestly. Like, I was just like, cherry pie is not my thing. And I had one bite, and it was mind-blowing. And what she does, it's a mix of sweet cherries and sour cherries. And while she's making the filling, she adds a maraschino liqueur that cooks down in there and gives it this really nice flavor.
No.
So it's not overly sweet, and it's just got this like tart sharpness to it. It's incredible.
So I live 10 minutes from the airport. I think I could be in Colorado in about 2 hours.
Yeah, man, this cherry, and then she uses fresh cherries too. So like, it's not just like cherry mush. Like they're popping in your mouth, and oh man, that cherry pie is
especially
something
right now in summertime where they're all so good.
Oh, ice cream.
Well, out here too, it's peach season out here in Colorado, and a lot of people don't realize that, but peaches get grown out here, and they call them Palisade peaches. So she went out and bought a bunch of peaches, and just came up with this recipe on the fly, and it has been her best selling at the farmers market. It's a salted caramel Palisade peach pie with crumble on top, and that one is also just equally amazing. I mean, I had some of that last night, and I paid for it this morning. Nothing like eating a
do you have to wear like 6 pairs of breakaway pants every day? Just like throw them away?
Pretty much.
Oh, dang it, another pair gone.
And this, the first time she made this, and I hadn't even tried any of it. So we bring it to the farmer's market, and she just sold out of those peach pies like immediately. So then the next week we get there, start, setting everything up, and I just put one off to the side. And I was like, I don't care. You're not selling this. Like, we are bringing this home, and I'm eating the entire thing to myself.
Oh, dang it. We left one at home already.
2! Yes!
I could have swore we had 198.
So I'm going to eat that one on the drive home, babe.
It's tough to choose between the cherry and the peach, but that's that's my 1A and my 1B.
Oh, my God. I love pie so much.
All right. So let's close it on this note. I got one more question for you, and then we'll get out of here. But, Bo, if they want these delicious hot box recipes, they want some of the spices, rubs, whatnot, where can they find this?
You're not getting my recipe, kid.
And you're not getting my rubs.
But if you want to make your mother-in-law's food tolerable, or if you want your home cooking to be a lot easier and more flavorful without all the junk, go to bigtimeflavor.co.
Love it.
That's the site.
Now, Dave, what about pies, man? I know your wife's doing the market. Is there other ways to get these pies, or is this just kind of you got to come to Colorado?
Yeah, we worked on it, and like if we're traveling home, she'll bring some with, but it's just they're impossible to ship because I don't know if you've ever worked in logistics or anything like that, but it doesn't matter how many fragile labels you slap on a box, they are kicking that into a truck and they're throwing it on your front porch. And these pies, they crumble. They've got to crumble on the top,
Right.
so we have not found out a way to ship them yet. What we're hoping to do at some point is make them frozen and then ship them on dry ice, and then you have to ship them priority. But then the problem is, it's already a $35 pie, and then you're adding another $35-$40 for shipping on top of that. So we haven't really found a feasible way to do it. But if you are in Fort Collins,
credit card, where's my credit card?
Right. But if you're in Colorado, swing by the Larimer County Farmers Market in Fort Collins, and she's there every Saturday. And then also just does deliveries online, so you can just put an order in, and we deliver twice a week.
Last but not least, what is Kluge? I'm new to social. This is my first year really dabbling social media, but this thing hashtag has went viral, man. And it to me it seems funny, but I don't know what it is. So it could be something personal. It could be it just fucking popped off, I guess, right?
And the way it worked out, and you said it backstage. Everybody sees my name and they think it's Kluge or Cludge. Like nobody gets the pronunciation of my name right. So I was on the open bar pod with J Mike and FF Man Bun Gabe, and we're on the show and we're talking. And this was when I was very new in the industry. It was one of the first shows I had done, and they go, "So the pronunciation of your last name," and then it just spun from there and took on its life of its own. And Gabe was like, we need to come up with a way that people know how to pronounce your name. So like, how do you phonetically spell it? And then we spelled it out, and it just kind of, took off from there. I don't know. It's really taken on a life of its own. A lot of people use it for innuendos, and other people use it for trolling. Like, I don't really know, but it's taken its own life at this point.
I love using it for innuendo. That's the best part.
Yeah, actually, Gabe was just out here in Fort Collins a couple of weeks ago, and we grabbed a couple of beers, and we were just cracking up. We were like, we had no idea that random show we were doing at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night in early off season was going to just like spark this whole brand awareness thing for you. But hey, the open bar, they're fun guys over there, and that's what they do.
Dude, you guys have been fun guys. I want to thank you both for hitting it hard, hitting it fast. We covered everything we needed to in an hour. We got Yum Yums. We got Cowboys. We got Bears. We got Kluge. We did it all, and we did it tonight. Bo, dude, Fantasy Vipers. Psst, you're doing ball blast. Your nimble numbers. You're all over the place, my man.
Everywhere.
You're like a fucking star in space. You're out of this world. Thank you for coming on. And until next time, Bo, it's been a pleasure, my treasure.
It's my pleasure.
Dave, kicked ass taking names this last year. Football guys, fantasy pros, checking it off the bucket list, man. Thank you for coming on. Everybody loves your expert intel, and you're a great dude. Keep on keeping on, my man.
Appreciate the invite, Matty.
Yes, sir. Guys, show's over. It's time to go home. We've had some Yum Yums. We've talked Cowboys. Bow, 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 bow. We can talk Bears. Rawr. I can't do a bear. But on a serious note, Fantasy Football Affair, FFaffair.com, YouTube, social media, podcasts, you name it, we're there. Check out our content. We got a bunch of great guys. Eric Burkholder, Bradley Stickler, Brian, you name it, they're there. And don't forget about Canton, baby. Saturday night, Jersey, 7 to 12. First drinks on us. Let's party like a rock star. Guys, I'm the MattyDaddy FF. Till next time, it's been a pleasure. My treasure.